Hello, how's everybody doing? How is everything? All right. All right. Welcome everybody to Texas Game Jam 2025. I guess we'll have a few more folks popping in and out, but we will begin with our presentation. All right, so first, the jam schedule. All right, so right now we have the Texas Game Jam Kickoff. You are here right now. At 6:30 p.m., we're going to pass it to our speaker, Jimmy. And after he kind of does his talk and then asks for questions and things like that, we'll go back to us to do our theme reveal, which I know a lot of people are excited for. And then at around 8 p.m., you guys will be let off and you're ready to start jamming. On Saturday, for tomorrow, the plan is 9 a.m. we'll have serve breakfast in the atrium. And then around 6 p.m., we will do trivia in 6.202, which is one of the rooms in the GDC. And then we'll also have dinner 6 p.m. And then Sunday, we have our suggested encouraged submission deadline, because sometimes game jams don't always go as planned. So it's good to have a submission earlier on. And then, of course, at 8 p.m., we have our official submission deadline on itch.io post dinner. All right, and then a few events after. There are some showcases that we have planned. So on Saturday, October 4th, we're planning to do an award stream. The time is kind of TBD right now, but probably around midday afternoon or so. And we'll send more announcements once this kind of comes closer. And then we have our Twitch. We'll be streaming on Twitch, Texas EGATS. And then Crystal and Sophie, two of our officers, will be playing through your Texas Game Jam submissions and hopefully playing your games well and not, losing. And then, another thing is for the showcase, it is 100% opt-in. So you can choose when you submit your game on itch if you want it to be in that kind of video showcase. If you don't want that to happen, then you don't have to opt in. And then on Friday, October 3rd, in the GDC, we're planning to do an in-person showcase, so you guys can actually come in person, show each other your games and stuff. It'll be a fun time, playing games and having fun. And we have a question.
Uh, it's like it's from what I know. I guess that just keep it closer.
Okay, I'll try to talk louder. Hopefully, it picks up better on Twitch. All right. And then so in-person showcase, and then just a fun time to showcase your games. And then awards. We also have awards. So awards is also 100% opt-in. You do this when you submit your game. Judging will take place virtually over the course of the days following the jam. And you will join us on the Texas Game Jam Awards stream for next weekend, where we announce all the awards. And then we will post updates, of course, in the server as things move along. And the awards will be announced after our great theme reveal. And then some more jam info. So if you need a team, matchmaking is currently closed in terms of automated team matching. But you can still find a team. There's the Looking for Team channel on the Discord server. You can talk to people, find a team through that. And be sure to declare your team in team editing if you have updates. If you try and still can't find a team, remember you can also participate solo, and that's completely fine. And just let us know in the team editing channel if you're making those sort of changes. Question?
I actually have something to say about that for like the team matching form. Some of the people who signed up for the jam are either not on the jam Discord or like the Discord username they put isn't on there. So if you're one of the people who just recently was like assigned your team and one of the people who's listed to be in your team isn't in your channel, then you'll have to just directly message them on Discord. Also, some people only have like an email for them because they didn't put their username at all. Just be aware of that.
Yeah, good point. All right.
There.
All right, so team roles. So all your teams are being given, have been given a team category with their little name, team name and role, something like, team, 3, and then you have your little channel and voice channel. You can add channels and delete channels rename them, and then change your team color. And if you have any like other questions related to your kind of team Discord related information, feel free to ping officers. And then in terms of where to jam, so pretty much all of the Gatesdale complex, this building is open. So we have GDC 3.100.456. Those are all the bridges. So sort of when you go upstairs, like the sort of bridge connecting areas. And then some other rooms, 4.02, 4.04, 5.02, and 6.202, except for trivia on Saturday. Well, for trivia on Saturday at 6 p.m., we'll just have like a little event there. But otherwise, you'll be good to jam there as you need. And yeah, in general, be courteous. Don't kick people out of the atrium bridge. You know, just be reasonable. And just communicate well with each other. And of course, you know, you don't have to, for jamming, you don't have to be in the GDC. You can also work from home, and just wherever works best for you. And there are a lot of channels to get help if you need help. You know, of course, we do intend to be a game jam that is very, you know, beginner friendly. So we have a lot of different sorts of channels. You can ask questions to mentors. You can get help on GitHub, Unity, programming art, things like that, audio. And there's a FAQ page for frequently asked questions. And yeah, you can also ask the officers for any other logistical questions. And refer to the resources channel for other general resources. And then mentor one-on-ones. So I think there's announcements sent today, but basically there's one-on-one mentor signups with all sorts of different cool industry folks, ranging from, you know, art, programming, sound, people from the games industry. So you can ask questions about their career, companies, experiences, etc., or just general advice as you're making your game. So be sure to go, if you want to sign up for a one-on-one scheduling with a mentor, there's a one-on-one scheduling channel. And on that channel, there's information that we posted on how to do exact scheduling. But essentially how it works is you'll ping us, put the information of your team, and then we'll kind of put you down for a specific time with a mentor that you can see. And then when that time comes around, the mentor will sort of join your team's, you know, Discord voice channel, and you can just have your meeting there. And then, of course, we have a game trivia plan. Oh.
Sorry about that.
Xenoblade action, but we got game trivia plan is on Saturday at 6 p.m. While we eat food, because who want to enjoy trivia with some food? It was just so amazing that I stumbled across my words right there. But yeah, that'll be GDC 6.202. Be ready to know your video game fun facts. I think it'll be a video game OST sort of trivia session. So if you know your favorite video game tracks, they'll help you a lot. And there will be a prize at that trivia event as well. All right, so for our mentors and judges, we have mentors and judges from all of these sorts of different companies, from UT, Netflix, Every, Daybreak, Oracle, and the Sony Games company. So round of applause for our mentors and judges for making this possible. Of course, we have participants from tons of different schools across the country. And there's just a lot of schools, so we're just going to slowly go through the slides and, you know, just gaze upon all the different schools. We have all the Texas schools there, and then Sloan, next slide. Some more. And yeah. So, thank you guys. We have over 400 signups for Texas Game Jam, making us the biggest student-run game jam in the country. All right, and we have, and yeah, you know, that's EGATS, and yeah, about us now. All right, so who are we, EGATS? Who is this group of individuals hosting Texas Game Jam? So we're the Electronic Game Developers Society. If you're unfamiliar, we're a group of multidisciplinary students at UT passionate about everything with game development. In addition to Texas Game Jam, we have all sorts of different sorts of events such as dev nights that would happen every week, workshops in art, Unity, and we have industry speaker nights, socials, all sorts of cool things and resources to kind of connect you all together and get into the game industry. And who runs eGads? So my name is Zion. I'm the president of eGads. And then we'll go through all of our officers. We have Crystal, our main events officer. Round of applause. We have Nayan, our community and socials officer. Safine, our webmaster and historian here up front. Julie, our design officer. Bernice, our outreach and recruitment officer, who I think is not here today, but we can give a round of applause. Giancarlo, our Unity workshops officer. Lucy, our art workshop officer. Ethan, our treasurer. Connor, our sponsorships officer. Jawad, our industry officer. And Annabelle, our communications officer. Two more, Josh and Jude, both of our technical officers. All right. And our social media, so we have our website where we like to showcase tons of eGads creations, our Discord page, which is where we communicate to all of our eGads members, our itch page where we showcase games from our different events, our Twitter page, YouTube for our vlogs, and our Instagram page where we kind of talk about all of our events and all sorts of fun social media posts there. And there's a QR code for our Discord. We'll give like a few seconds to scan if you're not in it already. Special thanks to our sponsors, PocketWorlds, Unity, Zynga, and Tummy Drops. And without further ado, I'd like to hand out to Jimmy Chu, CTO of PocketWorlds, and he's going to be talking about his experience in games and lessons and tips for game gamers.
And you said present with me? Yeah, you can present. Just make sure to keep it close. So.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
All right, I was in this room, I think like 5 months ago, giving a very similar presentation. So if you attended that one, I'm sorry. Rehashing. Okay, perfect. Cool. I guess I'll just wander around and I'll come back to this to press next. Hi, I am Jimmy Su. I'm the co-founder and CTO of PocketWorlds. Real quick show of hands, how many of you guys, this is your first ever game jam? Okay, almost everybody. Awesome. You guys are in for a treat. How many of you guys have done a game jam before? Okay, awesome. Excellent. And then how many of you guys are thinking about the gaming industry as a career path after college? Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, well, my talk is about the gaming industry and about the future of games coming from my experience. I started PocketWorlds in 2013, so I've been doing this for 12 years. And some of you guys may be familiar, but we created 2 products. One is called High-Rise, the other one is called Everstatus. They are both UGC gaming platforms. High-Rise is more on the experiences side, and Everstatus is more on the kind of fashion aesthetic side. And I'm going to talk mostly about High-Rise for this presentation, and specifically covering UGC and essentially what it means and how to really leverage it. And I think some of it, at least, will be applicable as we enter this game jam, because UGC and game jams kind of go hand in hand. Essentially building the same stuff. There's so many screens, I don't know which one I should look at. Okay, so about High-Rise, we launched High-Rise in 2015, initially as a social virtual world. And what I mean by that is, if you guys have ever heard of Club Penguin, Habbo Hotel, Second Life back in the day, they're basically MMOs, but the primary objective isn't really to grind for XP or to level up, but rather to just hang out and socialize in a multi-third persistent world. So back in 2015, we launched High-Rise, and our goal was essentially to build something like that. And over the years, one thing that we noticed was we would have a lot of people in the community want to contribute, either designing rooms, because we had a built-in room editor, or kind of submit designs for assets, or like clothes, pets, whatever. And then naturally, we leaned into that because our team was quite small at the beginning. So instead of building the content ourselves, we started building tools. And that was essentially what led us down the path of becoming a UGC platform. And a little bit, I guess, who we are, adding some legitimacy to why I'm standing here today. We're backed by Y Combinator, Bigcraft, Bessemer. They're some of the biggest gaming VCs. And we've been around for a while. We started in San Francisco, but we started up our office in Austin about a year ago, which is why I'm here. And now we have a place over on Springville with like 20, 30 people on the team. Cool. I will go on the next slide. So this is what I'm going to cover today. I'm first going to give a primer on UGC. So what is UGC? The state of the industry, really coming from a member of the gaming industry, what are the headwinds? What is the state of it? And you guys some of you guys have probably heard things are not exactly super easy right now for game companies. So why is that? I'll talk a little bit there. I'll talk about the advantage of UGC, why it's interesting, why it's kind of done really well, whereas traditional gaming studios have not. And next section, how to succeed with UGC. I think some of that, the tips there will be applicable to the game jam. How do you build for an audience without $100 million in funding? And then I'm going to take a closer look at High-Rise and High-Rise Studio. Essentially, all the stuff that we covered in the prior sections, the tips and tricks, how does that actually manifest with a real product? And finally, the last section, I'll quickly touch on what I think the industry is going to look like going forward the next 5 years or so. And then we'll kind of wrap up with Q&A. I will try to get through this quickly. I know you guys are all eager to start building. So, starting with UGC. Okay, so the simplest way to think about what UGC is, you guys, I'm sure many people in this audience have seen stuff like games like these before. These three are Roblox games. Roblox is probably the biggest giant in UGC. If you don't know Roblox, you can talk after. But yeah, so these are three of the biggest hits. Starting with Grow Garden. So Grow Garden currently has 16 to 22 million concurrent users, which is massive. No AAA game has this number of users. It's currently the biggest hit on Roblox. It was made by a 14-year-old. I think his username was BMW Lux. His identity is not actually public, so nobody actually knows who he is. But he built Grow Garden in 3 days. Adopt Me was probably the first big hit in Roblox. And it was built by two people. And what they did really well was they figured out how to turn it into a business, how to monetize. So Adopt Me, this number might be out of date, so it might be even higher now, but they were making about $60 million a year in revenue. And this is after Roblox's cut. And Roblox's cut, if you guys aren't familiar, is really, really high. So net, or the gross revenue for Adopt Me is something north of $400 million a year. Built by two people. They now have a studio, I believe, of like 10 people, maybe like slightly more, but it's still incredible the amount of revenue to the number of employees or creators. And finally, the last one, Dress to Impress. Again, built by, I think it was either a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old, but one person. They were a Roblox player, they built it, and the cool thing about Dress to Impress is they basically took an idea that was popular elsewhere, turned it really quickly into this Roblox game, and then it actually started bringing in an audience to Roblox that only downloaded Roblox to play Dress to Impress, which is kind of a pretty unique phenomenon. They usually, for the other two, it's like, I'm already in Roblox, there's something to do, I'm just going here, or my friends are here. But for Dress to Impress, it's, I'm seeking out Roblox only to play this. I don't even care about the rest of Roblox. So these are kind of in painting a picture of just the massive scale of UGC. If if you were to rewind the clock maybe 5, 10 years ago and you talk about user-created content, you're probably talking about mods. Or if you play StarCraft or Warcraft, you build a custom map in the editor. It's like a hobby. It's maybe someone's side project. It's definitely not serious. It's definitely not a business. And today, that is very different. UGC has become a major business, and the stuff that you guys are building in the game jam, if you do it well, you can definitely turn it into something substantial. So that's kind of the promise of UGC. So the two platforms, there's a few more, but the main one is Roblox. They are kind of the OG, the established platform that really pioneered what UGC meant and the scale it can achieve. Fun fact, Roblox started as a physics game engine. And I think they've been around for almost 20 years now. But the first version was they built a physics game engine, and they didn't really know what to do with it. And they started building more tools, started like cultivating their creator of their army of kids, because they're so young. And then over the years, they learned more and more and started getting better and better. And then the breakthroughs came, the adoptees, the Grow Gardens. If you don't know Roblox, the general age demographic is about 8 to 12. Nowadays, maybe a little bit older. They've been trying to skew older, and their audience naturally kind of aged up. But most of the experiences are games, and most of the experiences are pretty simple kids games, I would say. In contrast, High Rise, which is kind of our challenge to Roblox, we are generally 15 to 25, so older. We are predominantly girls, and the reason for that is because we really focus on social play. So instead of trying to jump over each other in an obstacle course, you're hanging out and cooperating and playing multiplayer games together. Or you're attending a podcast with a live video stream or a concert. So a lot of those experiences in High Rise, we're really focused on self-expression. So heavy emphasis on fashion, aesthetics on the avatars. We're focused on collection, and with the older user base, we offer a pretty distinct difference in audience and a pretty distinct difference in opportunity for creators compared to Roblox. But very much, we're still the challenger. We are the David to Roblox's Goliath. Cool. Next. The tools. So this is how you actually build on these UGC platforms. On Roblox, there's Roblox Studio. It's a standalone Lua editor. I'm sure everyone in this audience have at least heard of Unity. I believe the game jam is also going to be done in Unity. So it's like Unity, but dumbed down. And you only build games for Roblox. And it's designed for, if you're like a 9-year-old, you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you can figure it out eventually. High Rise Studio, on the other hand, is actually sitting on top of Unity. So it's designed for, because our audience is older and generally more capable, we actually built it on top of Unity. So someone coming in with Unity experience, it will feel at home. The interface will look like Unity. All of the power of Unity, all the capabilities will be right there. Although you don't write C#, you do write Lua script for both High Rise and Roblox. But again, for both, you can bring your own assets. You can do your own 3D modeling. For High Rise, we've got a High Rise catalog, but because we're sitting on top of the Unity ecosystem, you can pull any assets you want from the Unity asset store. So there's a lot, essentially, right off the bat you can use. Thanks. Okay, so that's what UGC is at a very high level. The state of the gaming industry. Historically, I think these terms everyone here will understand, AAA, AA. So historically, the gaming industry is essentially dominated by what is known as AAA studios and AA studios and indies. AAA studios are the EAs, the Activisions of the world. They have giant budgets. They're usually like public companies. They will spend 3 to 5 years building a game, and the budgets are usually north of $100 million. And I think a stat I just saw is GTA 6 would definitely be a AAA game, and their budget is $2 billion to build GTA 6. And they've taken, I think, close to 10 years to get to where they are now. So very long time, a lot of money, giant teams. That's AAA. AA is more mid-budget, so that is a budget between 10 to 100 million, and generally teams of maybe like 50 to 100. If you guys remember, I'm sure you guys played League of Legends. So Riot became very successful, like 5-10 years ago when League of Legends really started to blow up, and a bunch of the original team members of Riot that created League of Legends left Riot to start their own gaming studios. So from Riot, there came, I think, at least 10 gaming studios just from the people that worked on League of Legends. And they all got a lot of funding from venture capital firms because they all wanted to recreate the success of League. And what happened was they all failed. Some of the most spectacular failures, I think the studios raised $100 million, burned through all of it. I think some of them didn't even launch, and then they shut down. And a lot of that points to kind of the difficulty of AA and AAA in today's environment. There's just a lot of headwinds, both because the budgets have gone so high, the development time have gotten so long, that it's really hard to learn and understand what you're building is not going to work. So they'll spend 3 years building something, and at the end, either ship it and it just goes nowhere, or they just realize they don't have enough money left to even market the game, and ship them. Yeah, and I think because of this day and age, there's so many different options for players. The fight for attention is incredibly fierce. That these AAA and AA studios, it's just incredibly hard for them to compete. UGC is going to be a different story, and I'll talk about why. But so far, if you just look at the market cap of Roblox over the last 5 years, it's become incredibly successful. And the 3 games I highlighted in the beginning did that very well. So why does UGC matter, and why is this such a big deal? So the 3 main advantages of UGC, and I'm sure you guys will get a feel for this as you go into the hackathon, because some of this mirrors, and will mirror in your hackathon experience with Game Jam. The first one is infinite experimentation. It's so easy to build a game, right? A 14-year-old can take 3 days to build Grove Garden. From where we sit now and looking at it, it looks like a 14-year-old built it, but it's tremendously successful because he's able to build that in 3 days. If it doesn't work, he'll build something else. So the ability to just experiment, to iterate, to innovate is incredibly high in UGC. So the development cost, again, it's a sea of hobbyists is near zero. You don't need a team. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with 2 people, and you can build something really fun. The second advantage is there's a built-in discovery. These UGC platforms are fundamentally all MMOs. Roblox is basically an MMO. High-Rise is an MMO. And with MMOs, there's social networks built in. So when you build a game like Grove Garden and you get 1 person in, that person will bring in their friends because their social network is on Roblox and they'll post on their feed or in the messenger or whatever, and people will come in naturally. So it solves that discovery problem. And yes, there are mechanisms where you can put marketing dollars behind it to really accelerate, but it's not required, right? That team of 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds, they're not actually putting in a marketing budget behind what people. They just build it, it's fun, people come. And then the third advantage is platform bundling. This is really important, especially for the Game Jam crowd. I think once you pick up Unity and start building your first game, you'll quickly realize that you'll spend maybe even the majority of your time building the infrastructure to even allow that game to play. So things like character controllers, network code. If you're building a multiplayer game, networking code is notoriously difficult to do. But all of that comes bundled with the UGC tooling. So if you're building something for High-Rise or for Roblox, you don't even need to know what the cloud is or how to send packets back and forth between clients. You don't need to know about the engine really. Lighting, all of that is kind of taken care of for you. You just drag in an asset and it just works. You don't have to worry about distribution. So normally when you build something in Unity and publish it to Steam, Steam will be your distributor, but then what happens afterwards? You know, like put up ads on Google. You can pay Steam to advertise your stuff, but it's still, distribution is very difficult, and typically that's why gaming developers and development studios work with publishers. Publishers take care of, their job is to take care of distribution, and they'll take a huge cut for it. You don't have to worry about payments. How do you actually make it into a business after you create your game? How do you earn money? If you build in Unity, there's like ad SDKs you can throw in, ad networks you can integrate to like monetize on ad impressions. Maybe you can figure out how to do in-app purchases or microtransactions. Those are all additional things you need to build just so you can have that feature enabled. But again, UGC covers it and it's bundled with the tool that you download. So the moment you click create a new project inside Robot Studio or inside Pyro Studio, those things are there. They're ready to go. And then the last one is actually very important but often forgotten. It's telemetry. So how do you know your game is good? Usually, yes, you'll have an intuition. You'll play it yourself, maybe get it to a couple of your friends. You can get some feedback, but it's really important once you start doing it seriously to get data. Where are people dropping off? Where are people feeling the pinch? Where are people really enjoying and engaging? What's your retention like? What's your monetization like? That's all metrics that normally, if you're building a game, a mobile game outside of UGC, you have to build yourself. But again, bundled in. Huge, huge advantage. So the three of these together makes UGC development a completely different game than traditional AA or AAA development. Okay, so next I want to take a closer look at each one of these advantages and show you kind of what it looks like in action. So the first one is simple development. So I talked about how UGC is so simple, so easy. This is what it looks like. So this is High Studio. On the left is the main screen. If you ever use Unity, this will look right at home because this is Unity. You've got the world scene on the left where you can kind of design your thing, and then immediately on the right is a simulator of what it will look like on the device. On the right is Lua. This is a language that you use both in Roblox and in Hi-Rise. For any programmers out there, Lua is basically the easiest language you can get. You don't have to worry about memory. You don't really have to worry about type. It's pretty simple. Again, Roblox chose it because they want 10-year-olds to be able to write code. Yeah, so this is all very simple. Second thing, closer look. When I mentioned you can do very quick deployments, you can do very quick iterations. This is what that looks like. So in Hi-Rise Studio, there's basically, after you build your game, again, in Hi-Rise Studio, you just click one button to upload it auto uploads your entire project to our build servers. And on our build servers, we basically build it for all the platforms. You don't have to know anything about any of that. It happens behind the scenes. It takes less than 15 minutes, and then you get a notification that your builds are ready. You can immediately pick up your phone and start using it on a real device on a production server. And if it looks good, you just go onto our publishing portal, type in your patch notes or release notes, hit publish, and immediately people will start coming in. So this whole process will take less than 20 minutes. Versus, to give you a real world kind of timeline, we submitted Hi-Rise to Steam because we were never on Steam before. We submitted to Steam in May of this year. Thought it would take a few weeks of back and forth on a review, whatever. Ended up getting like 40, 50,000 people on the wish list, so there's quite a bit of demand on Steam. And just today, I got off the call with Steam that they're finally going to let it approve it for publishing. So it's been 3 months. That's the timeline for publishing, which is insane when you compare it to like 20 minutes. Next is distribution. So what happens after you publish? So again, Hi-Rise, Roblox are both MMOs, and it's an MMO with a collection of different experiences. We call them worlds. So after you publish, your game, your experience shows up on essentially the world directory, and people can go to it. And it'll also start surfacing on people's news feeds. So this is for organic discovery. if one of your friends goes, or if someone goes into your experience, their friends will start seeing it on their news feeds. And then there's a built-in mechanic. The next advantage is this is pretty core to UGC, and I think it's going to be pretty important when you guys do your game jam. One of the traits of UGC is it's players building for other players. So you're really close to the audience. You kind of are building for yourself because you know what the community wants. So in the 3 examples I listed in the beginning, they're all built by Roblox players. And same thing for us. We have essentially our creators are all people from the community. So being close to your audience, being able to talk to people. So once you deploy it, you go in, and then there's other people playing. You can just strike up a conversation. Hey, what do you like? What do you don't? What don't you like? What are you looking for? And I can just build that and I'll deploy that. 30 minutes from now, you'll see that feature live. Pretty incredible and pretty powerful. And then the last thing, well, now you've got a game and it's live. There's people using it. How do you actually make money? Right? If you're serious about it and want to turn it into a business, how does monetization work? There's typically 2 ways for all UGC platforms where creators can earn money. You can either earn by engagement. So if I build an experience that people just love spending time in, I will essentially start generating revenue as they spend time in my game. Very similar to YouTube in that sense. YouTube, especially with YouTube Premium, if YouTube Premium members watch your videos, you get engagement payouts. And then the other one is, we call them in-world purchases, but they're basically in-app purchases. So you can say, I want to sell a cosmetic. I want to sell a power-up. Again, the systems are built in, you just drag it in, it'll work. Very simple, and a very easy way to just start making money. For us, for HiRise, I think last year, our biggest creator, again, we're quite small, compared to Roblox, but our biggest creator, we paid them out about $700,000. So quite a big opportunity. Cool. So how do you succeed as a creator? How do you actually build things that people want? You want to start small. So don't start with the idea of building the next Skyrim or RuneScape. We actually had, when we first launched Studio, one of the engineers on our team played a lot of RuneScape growing up, and he was like, I'm going to go out and build RuneScape with HiRise Studio. He ended up building it, working on it in his off time for like 2 months. He was doing all-nighters, he was working on weekends because it was his passion project. And it did look super impressive. But then he realized, well, everyone should realize that RuneScape is huge. One guy working nights to build RuneScape is quite hard. And after 2 months, he just burned out, and he just refuses to touch that project again. So don't be like that. Start small. Start with something that you can immediately get feedback. Build Flappy Bird, or whatever the version of Flappy Bird that you think will work is. Don't build Skyrim. You want to ship fast, so time box yourself, just like the game jam. You want to time box yourself to a few days, maybe a week max, to get your first version out. Don't build endlessly, and then once you start with a time constraint, that'll also force you to think, how do you build something that I can ship in 3 days rather than open-ended. Lean into the simplicity. I think this is really interesting way of looking at games. I think a lot of modern AAA games, there's a lot of flair, there's a lot of polish, there's really interesting stories, cinematics. There's just a lot of layers that add complexity. The beauty of UGC is because you're building pure gameplay, you can build straight to the fun. So lean into that. Figure out what the fun is, just build that and work on that and iterate on that. Don't worry about all the fluff that sits on top. Know your audience. Because UGC is all about players building for other players, you should know what your audience will want to play. If you're on Roblox, they're probably into obstacle courses, obbies. If you're on HiRise, they're probably not. Our audience are more into social, so don't build an obstacle course. So know your audience. Know your competition. What are other people building? Right now, the meta on Roblox is idle play. It was essentially innovated by Grow Garden. So the big innovation of Grow Garden is I make a garden, and I don't need to be in that room for it to continue to generate vegetables. I can go to sleep and it'll still work on my behalf. Which is like pretty simple if you think about it, but that didn't exist before. And now it's become kind of the meta on Roblox. I don't play. So know what your competition is building and then take those ideas and remix them. Watch the data. So on one hand, you definitely want to talk to your users and play the game yourself, understand where the fun is from an intuition, from a qualitative perspective. But you also want to look at the data. People will say one thing and do another. So by purely just talking to people and interviewing, you're not going to get the full story. Where are people actually dropping off? They can tell you the game is fun to your face because they want to hurt your feelings, but are they only spending 3 minutes and never coming back? So look at the data, see where they're dropping off. And also, where are they staying? What kind of users are staying? Maybe you realize that the kind of user who likes my game is totally different than the kind that I thought would like my game. And you can get that from the data. Embrace remix culture. This is very big in UGC. You want to look at both on your platform and outside ideas that work, and then bring it in, add your spin to it to make it right for your audience. That's remixing. Remixing is where a lot of the innovation comes from, both in UGC and also games in general. But because UGC is so fast, you can remix very, very quickly. So use that as your advantage. MMOs, built for social play. Multiplayer games are always going to be more fun than single player games, even if they're worse, fundamentally worse. Minesweeper is a great single player game. It's a great puzzle, but if you can somehow figure out how to do Minesweeper as a multiplayer game, it's going to do better. It's just humans like to play with other humans, so figure out how to do social play. And I think that will really apply to the game jam. If you can build a multiplayer game and it works well, you get a lot further than building a single player experience. But it will for sure be harder. And then focus on the player experience and creativity. Again, because the infrastructure is taken care of for you, you don't have to write all these kind of scaffold to just get a game even started. You just focus on what makes your game fun and put all of your attention to that. All right. Okay, so coming up on the last section, High-Rise and High-Rise Studio. So this is kind of now looking closer to what High-Rise is and how it works, and applying some of the stuff that we just talked about in a real-world example. So, excuse me. Starting with High-Rise, the app. The app is what the end user interacts with. So this is the MMO. There is essentially 3 components to it. The first one is play. This is what the end user, the experiences, the worlds, the games that the end user plays. The cool thing about High-Rise is because we're so social, we have video streaming, so people do like concerts, they do a lot of live games. That's play. The second one is collect. High-Rise, again, so it's very focused on aesthetics and self-expression. So collection is a big component of it. A lot of this is also community generated, so this is also UGC. For example, the idols over there is made by this guy in Argentina. He's now created a brand for himself called Idols, and he has regular releases. And finally, build. There's 3 ways to build in High-Rise. There is design mode, which is essentially it's an in-game feature that allows you to customize your space. So this is something that lets everyone build something. Very easy, pretty low versatility. High-Rise Studio we covered. This is the powerful, professional, I would say prosumer tool that lets you do everything custom. And then there's the design. So if you're just an artist, you're sketching designs, we can turn those designs into real assets. Similar to what we did with Idols. Okay. High-Rise Studio, I'm not going to go too much in depth. I think I already covered a bunch of it. But if you want to check it out, you can download it at create.highrise.game. The tooling that's available, you've got the studio itself that lets you write code, blah, blah, blah. You've got the creator portal. So this is create.highrise.game. This is where you can monetize, manage your telemetry. So So look at metrics, look at data, manage your user base. You can like talk to your community. It's all there. And then monetization is also included. And lastly, the ecosystem itself. If you really want to put marketing dollars behind it, you can actually pay to essentially market to other users. That's available. And then we have our own asset catalog for you to like just, if you don't know how to do 3D modeling, you can just drag in whatever assets you want. When we first launched Hire Studio about a year ago, these were like, I think 5 of the first experiences that people built. So you can see it's a pretty big variety. There's first person stuff, second person or follow camera, there's isometric. Since then, there's been a lot more interesting stuff. Someone built, a few months ago, someone built Counter-Strike. So they imported the dust. So you can just walk around, essentially on mobile Counter-Strike. Pretty awesome. Okay, so where is this all headed? Just wrapping everything up. So first, the platforms will own distribution, discovery, and safety. Platforms like us, like Roblox, will take care of trust and safety. We'll take care of distribution. We'll take care of all of the infrastructure, so you don't have to worry about it. The creators will professionalize into micro studios. So instead of a studio that's AA or AAA with hundreds of people, you'll have teams of 2, 5, 10, and you'll build something that a lot of people will appreciate and play. I think that's definitely the way that the gaming industry is going towards. Another thing is, you guys probably are very aware of this, is players are expecting cross-platform identity and evolving live content. It used to be that as a AAA studio, I can make a game, sell it for $50, and never think about it again. Until like 3 years from now, I make a sequel. That world is no longer a thing. I think the expectation now is things, because you're investing your engagement, your energy into a particular game, you expect things to change. You expect new content to be added. So that is very much going to continue. And then finally, the last prediction is time and spend, this is monetization, will shift away from traditional AA and AAA into more UGC economies. That's the trajectory that we're on. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I think if anything, more and more attention and money is being poured into UGC, that we'll see better and better products come out of it. It is kind of the last shiny light in the gaming industry that's kind of struggling right now. Cool. That is it. So to wrap up, the future belongs to the players, you guys. And I'd love to take any questions. Yeah. We do. So because we sit on top of Unities, anything Unity can do, we can do. So Figma, for example, you can export assets and just drag it in. Yeah, so that's it. Other questions? Yeah.
Your thoughts on the Fortnite ecosystem?
The Fortnite what system?
Fortnite ecosystem.
Oh, like UEFN? Yeah. It's interesting. I think UEFN, basically everyone is trying to be a platform because we realize that the platform takes so much of the, as Epic, if I'm putting Fortnite onto the App Store, Apple takes a 30% cut. So ideally, I have my own platform where I don't have to give up that 30% margin. So very much, that's what Tim Sweeney that's running Epic? Yeah, it's on his mind. He tried it with the Epic Game Store, it didn't really work. And Fortnite is like the next big push. I think it's challenging because what they're trying to do, if you guys are not familiar, UEFN is basically Roblox but built on top of Fortnite. Fortnite is the backbone, and it is the main game, but you can build other games that Fortnite players can play. The problem is Fortnite is a really good game, And any game that you release on UEFN has to be better than Fortnite. Otherwise, you're just pulling attention from Fortnite. That's Epic's dilemma. And so far, no game is better than Fortnite. So every game that they try to push, they're essentially giving their users a lesser version of the main game that's making all of their revenue. With that said, it's very much a long-term bet. One day they will probably have a hit, maybe, that does beat Fortnite, but we're not there yet. Yeah.
What's your opinion on like UGC with VR games like Rec Room? I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I know this guys. So Rec Room is a UGC platform that started out in VR, but they've actually moved away from VR. So most of their user base has been on mobile. And certainly their monetization mostly comes from mobile at this point. They struggled. So they raised a lot of money. I think they raised north of 100 million at a multi-billion-dollar valuation in 2021. There was a lot of hype. This is back in the metaverse days. They did really well, and then they tried to do UGC, and they struggled because what ended up happening was they tried to make tools that everyone could use. Their goal was everyone could be a creator. And this is a kind of a pitfall that we ran into too. The problem is when you try to build tools that everyone can use, you kind of end up with tools that no one can really use. The professionals will just look at your tools and think, this is getting in my way. So they try to integrate AI, for example, so anyone can like prompt the AI and generate a game. But then as a professional, I just want to write code. I don't want your AI to like mess up my project. So I think last month they had that announcement where they laid off half their company and kind of shut down a lot of their UGC to really double down on the professional tooling and double down on their internal games. Yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenal product, but I think they flew a little bit too close to the sun. Yeah.
Do you support Lua U, Roblox's version of Lua?
Luau? Yeah, Lua U. Yes, so we also use Lua U, however you pronounce it. The reason for that is Roblox did a lot of improvements on top of Lua to make it a little bit more creator friendly. Yeah.
How difficult is moderation? Like, how much resources does it take to make sure there's no like inappropriate content or something like that?
Yeah, quite difficult. This is one of the advantages of UGC is as a creator, you don't have to worry about it because the platform is spending so much time and resources on it. For us, we have 30 people full-time just doing moderation, and we have layers of tools that are automated to screen for content. So every single piece of content that flows through our platform, whether it's images, video, or text, is screened by AI first. And then once it clears that, then it gets posted, and then there's like tiers of escalation when it gets to humans as well. It's by far our biggest, not by far, but it is our biggest team, and probably where we spend the most of our budget in terms of the tools. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. So if it's a UGC like user-generated content kind of thing, right? What's the kind of thing that the actual like employees at the company are usually working on? Like what would like software engineers and all that like design and stuff?
Yeah. Good question. So we have a few different teams on engineering. So I'll just focus on engineering. We have the server team. They handle all the infrastructure and the server-side features. So for example, if the server goes out, that's their fault. We have the client team that builds the actual client that you download from the App Store. So that team would work on things like the messenger, the newsfeed, the shop, profile, infrastructure, platform level features. We have a studio team that manages Hybrid Studio. So they work on deep engine stuff, and they essentially build the actual studio itself, not the Lua. And then we also have a Worlds team that's basically our in-house games team. And their job is to build games using Hybrid Studio. And they're essentially dog fooding, and the problems they run into, the bugs, they talk directly over to the studio team to fix, to close that loop to make it very tight. And they are by far, because they're a team of professional game developers, they push the boundaries the furthest.
A question from Twitch chat over here. So when it comes to UGC, specifically from like High Rise Studio, how possible is it to like make it look at, on like the level of a AAA game? And do you think it would ever like near that like level in the future? And was there like any future like plans to make it to increase that like visual style?
The answer is if you really, really, really wanted to do it, you can. It's not easy and it's not the best idea. And the reason for that is because fundamentally you're writing Lua scripts, so it's not going to be optimized. Right? At best case scenario, the Lua interpreter, Lua is a runtime language, it's not compiled. The Lua interpreter takes away some performance overhead, and everything else is perfect. But you're just not going to be able to do that compared to, I mean, a lot of these AAA games, they don't even use Unity because Unity and C# is not performant enough. Unreal Engine, for example, lets you get closer to the metal. And for the really, really advanced guys like, the rock stars building GTA 6, they're not using any of these off-the-shelf engines. They're building the engine themselves just so they can squeeze out every little ounce of performance. So you're basically fighting against multiple forces if that's what you're trying to do. It's just not what UGC is good at to try to compete with AAA. Yeah.
So if we're thinking about creating a UGC game, how would you recommend the initial game development, especially validating the core game mechanics before switching into building the tooling for it?
Yeah. Step one is figure out what the fun loop is. What is the actual game? Right? I think for most games that is actually very small. The actual core game. Is it battler? Are you like battling other people in order to other monsters or something in order to get XP to level up? Kind of like you can whiteboard that system, what the game loop is, figure that out, get that fun, and then figure out how do I layer complexity to it to flesh it out. Because that's going to be your hard. The core loop is going to be the hardest thing that you nail down, and it's also at the same time the easiest thing to iterate quickly. Any other questions? Yeah.
So with UGC, like, what sort of future plans do you think, like, what sort of improvements can UGC see in the future? Because I'm sure, like, y'all have future plans, what you're trying to improve on. So is there anything specific that you'd like to see improved?
Yeah. I think the ease of use for the tools, for sure. But it's kind of a double-edged sword, I mentioned. We don't want to make it too generic. But at the same time, it will be great for us to be able to onboard more creators. To give you an example, Roblox, I was talking to their CTO. He was saying that it takes them 7 years to incubate a professional level creator. So someone will join, usually when they're like 8, and will play around, tinker with Roblox Studio for 7 years before they can make something that other people will want to play. That's a huge gap, right? I don't want to wait 7 years for us to get there. So how do we innovate and figure out that problem? So that's probably one, the biggest. And the second is, on the other end of the spectrum, how do you actually let professional studios come in and build something of value? So figure out the incentives, the economics, so we can pull in professional Unity developers or professional game studios to actually build on our studio instead of building on their own thing and then trying to find a publisher. What does that look like? I'm not sure. Yeah. Other game engines? It only works on Unity. It's an extension of Unity, basically. We built our own layer on top of Unity. I think probably for the next version, we'll do something agnostic, but that's many years away. Yeah.
How does y'all's like monetization work with Unity? Like, I assume you have to work some sort of deal that you're building on top of their software. How does that work?
So we work pretty closely with them. We have a direct line to a lot of their teams. But for what we do, it's Unity has a license system. You're either like a pro license or whatever. For us, we don't distribute Unity. We're basically a library that people can choose to install on Unity. We have a wrapper that sets everything up for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But we don't actually manage the license. And I think that on Unity side, their EULA is something like once your game hits a certain amount of revenue, then you need a pro license. So UGC is totally fine, unless you're very successful. Yeah.
I was wondering what advice you have for people looking to be entry level in a company like yours, and I also wanted to say congrats on your Steam launch.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Man, it's been so long with the Steam review process. I was like, what's too much? Okay. Advice. Just build. I think these events are phenomenal because at the end of the day, it's hard to learn the skill of building great games from a class. I think there are certain ways you can, certain like rules for game design that you can learn from a lecture, but just being hands-on and building yourself, that's how you get to the most signal. And if you're trying to join a game development team, you will have a huge leg up if you can just show your portfolio. Like, this is what I built. That's not just a class assignment. That's always what we look for.
So I'm kind of curious about your story. What were you doing before entering the industry, and how did you get into the gaming industry?
So I was working on a computer science PhD at University of Washington. I left that to join Apple. This is back in 2012 to work on their chips. So my background is computer hardware. I worked on the chips that went into the iPhone. And I left Apple to meet with my co-founder. And we wanted, at the time, 2012, 2013 was the rise of mobile and the rise of social. So both the iPhone and Facebook, Instagram was like shooting up. So we want to do something on mobile, something with that. And I don't know if you guys remember, but back then there wasn't actually any multiplayer games. All the games on iPhone were single player. So we're like, oh, let's do something. Let's figure out how to do multiplayer on mobile. And then that's what we did. We're one of the first MMOs, actually. But we didn't start with that. We started with a dating app, as these stories always go. That was like the first 3 months of working together before we pivoted into this. Cool. Thank you. All right. Thanks.
All right, everybody, as we transition to the moment you've been waiting for, the theme review, since pizza has arrived, we'll give some time for y'all to come up and get pizza.
Yep, everything's ready.
Hello, everybody. Well, everybody. Wow. Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, the theme reveal. All right, without further ado, let us start the theme reveal. Everyone. Your theme for Texas Game Jam 2025 is Out of Time. Now, before you guys are let gone, give last some final little announcements and stuff. All right, so awards. There's a couple awards. Best overall. There are some cash prizes. Top three. We got $200, $150, third place with $100. And we have some other awards here: Best Design, Best Visuals, Best Sound Narrative, Use of Theme, Technology, Best Solo Game, Beginner, Diversifier, Most Funny, People's Choice Awards, Judges' Choice Awards. So I have some notes on that. So most diversifiers, as we seen earlier, there was a page about diversifiers. So that would be the game that has the most diversifiers. Best solo game, of course, that only applies to solo projects. Same for beginner teams. People's Choice Awards, that is based off y'all's votes on itch.io. And the Judges' Choice Awards, that's just every judge chooses their own personal favorite game. And next. So yeah, as we said, diversifiers. So it's linked to our itch page. So these are sort of achievements, inspiration, or challenges to make your game considering. So like, make a game only using these colors, or make a game only using your voice. Some fun, little challenges like that. These are not a requirement whatsoever. But if you want to go for that most diversifiers award, you can go for that. And yeah, and then the next one. Well, that's it. Happy jamming. We can't wait to see what you make.